So its Justice Department is protecting Hillary Clinton. They're also protecting James Comey. And we talked about this at some length last week. The IG report came out highlighting James Comey's misconduct as it relates to the memos he wrote about alleged conversations he had with President Trump, and then President-elect Trump first. And I think it's important to reiterate this issue, and I don't think I got into it sufficiently last week. This failure to prosecute Comey by the Justice Department is, the decision in this matter, in my view, virtually guarantees there will be no prosecutions on the coup targeting President Trump. I hope I'm wrong. This is a guess, but I'm going to tell you why I'm concerned about it. The IG report, if you've read the media, well, to the degree the media has even reported on it, other than our friends at Fox News or OANN or elsewhere, or Judicial Watch, because we are the media too, the focus has been on his handling of the memos. But the real focus to me, or the important focus, I mean, not that that's unimportant, because that was criminal too, is that this report outlines in plain sight the coup cabal, the conspiracy targeting President Trump. So the Justice Department had in its had presented to it already information demonstrating the illicit coup in seditious conspiracy targeting President Trump. Why is it I say this? Because the discussion on page 17 of the report, and I encourage you to go and look at the report, read it yourself, don't believe me, talks about the James Comey, with the approval of the President of the United States, Barack Obama, going to ambush President-elect Trump with the salacious and unverified dossier, with the hopes of getting him to say something that would put him in legal jeopardy. That's the coup. And here are the details, and I think it's worth reading. I think I read a little bit of it to you last week, but it shows the coup. It not only shows the coup, but it shows the incredible development that we have as a result of this IG report. It's been confirmed that Comey was more than just keeping a secret FBI file on President Trump improperly and then leaking it. He was spying on President Trump. Don't believe me, believe the report. Comey's first one-on-one meeting with President Trump, Trump occurred on January 6, 2017 at Trump Tower as part of a briefing to the President-elect on an intelligence community assessment of Russia efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election. The assessment was jointly prepared by the FBI, National Security Agency, and the Central Intelligence Agency, with the oversight from the Office of Director of National Intelligence, the Deep State. According to Comey, the plan for the ICA briefing of President-elect Trump had two parts, both of which Comey said he was concerned would be, quote, controversial and difficult conversations. The first part was of the briefing, jointly conducted by the intelligence community directors, that was Brennan and company like that, involved briefing the President-elect on the overall conclusions of the ICA, the assessment. The second part of the briefing concerned notifying the President-elect of, quote, salacious and unverified information about Trump's alleged conduct in Moscow several years later. Prior to the January 6, 2017 briefing, the FBI learned that several media outlets also had this information and were intending to publish it. Multiple witnesses told the OIG that the intelligence community directors agreed that Trump must be briefed on this information, and that the Director of National Intelligence decided that the briefing should be done by Comey in a small group or one-on-one. No witnesses. Before briefing President-elect Trump, Comey met with senior leaders of the FBI, including his Chief of Staff, James Rybicki, then FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, and then FBI General Counsel James Baker, and the supervisors of the FBI's investigation into Russia interference with the 2016 election. That would have been Peter Strzok, by the way. What the IG report doesn't say is that the day or two before that meeting, I think even the day before, he was in the Oval Office, Comey was, with this whole group, with President Obama and Vice President Biden, all discussing this operation against Trump. Comey wasn't spying for his own purposes. Obviously, he hated Trump. He was doing it with the approval and direction of the President of the United States, Barack Obama. Comey was Obama's spy. Baker and McCabe told the OIG that they raised and discussed with Comey a number of concerns about Comey meeting alone with President-elect Trump. Baker and McCabe said they agreed that the briefing needed to be one-on-one so that the Comey could present the, quote, salacious, unquote, information in the most discreet and least embarrassing way. At the same time, we were told they did not want the president-elect to perceive the one-on-one briefing as an effort to hold information over him, quote, like a Hoover-esque type of plot. Oh, why would he think that? The FBI director showing this garbage dossier to him, saying the Russians got dirt on you and we know about it? What do you think he's going to think? Witnesses interviewed by the OIG also said that they discussed Trump's potential responses to being told about the, quote, salacious information. Remember, they all knew it wasn't true, or they had no reason to believe it was true, yet they went at him with it anyway. Including that Trump might make statements about or provide information of value to the pending Russia interference investigation. The FBI counterintelligence investigation known as Crossfire Hurricane concerned whether individuals associated with the Trump campaign during the 2016 presidential election were coordinating with or had been unwillingly co-opted by the Russia government. This is a spy operation. He was a subject or a witness, certainly not a witness in the traditional sense. He was a subject. And they wanted to see what he'd say when given the information. He should have been read his rights. Comey violated the law and the president's constitutional rights in this meeting. And they all knew about it. The coup cabal. It's listed here, folks. I just read you the names. They all knew what was going on. Sure enough, that's why they wrote the memo. Multiple FBI witnesses recalled agreeing ahead of time that Comey should memorialize his meeting with Trump immediately after it occurred. Comey told the OIG that, in his view, it was important for FBI executive managers to, quote, executive managers to be, quote, able to share in Comey's recall of the salient details of these conversations, unquote. They were conducting an investigation of the president-elect for no good reason. They had nothing. Remember this dossier. It came from Hillary Clinton's campaign, Democratic National Committee, and their cutouts at the State Department, the FBI, DOJ, you name it. Bruce Orr, Nellie Orr. This was the apex of the criminal seditious conspiracy targeting President Trump. Comey also said that an additional concern shared by members of his management team was that if the briefing became, quote, a source of controversy, it would be important to have a clear contemporaneous record because Trump might, quote, misrepresent what happened in the encounter, unquote. Why do they think that? Because they were his political opponents. Shows the bias. So they wrote a secret memo on their meeting with the president as part of an investigation of him, President-elect Trump, a few days before he's inaugurated. No criminal scandal, no political corruption scandal like this in American history. And I'm reading it to you. And the Justice Department didn't want to do anything about it. McCabe told the OIG, in his view, it made sense. McCabe, they've been dithering about prosecuting him for other lies for a year and a half. It made sense for Comey to, quote, capture contemporaneous recollection, unquote, because there were millions of ways that the FBI could get follow-up questions or criticism, and Comey wanted to recollect exactly from his perspective how that had taken place. If you want to know why on earth these people would be later discussing wearing a wire on the president, this is their attitude. It's not a stretch to go from writing a dirty memo on the president to make him look bad if push came to shove, to trying to wear a wire on him. It's the same type of seditious activity. Comey told the OIG he began writing Memo 1 immediately following his meeting with Trump on January 6, 2017. He said he had a secure FBI laptop waiting for him in his FBI vehicle, that when he got into the vehicle, he was handed the laptop and began typing as the vehicle moved. He said he continued working on Memo 1 until he arrived at the FBI's New York field office, where Comey gave a quick download of his conversation with President-elect Trump to Rybicki, McCabe, Baker, and supervisors. Again, that's Page and Strzok, who are conveniently left out by name of by the IG. Supervisors of the FBI's Crossfire Hurricane investigative team via secure video teleconference. Comey said he probably told the participants he would send them his detailed notes of the interaction. So it goes into the discussion about him writing the emails, writing the memo. Memo 1 was the only one of the memos, because I think there's, 7 memos he wrote, on which Comey placed any classified dissemination controls or other handwritten handling markings. Comey placed an overall classification marking of secret or con no foreign at the top and bottom of the email. That's secret or con, I'm not sure what that means. No foreign means no foreign dissemination. He also placed the following classification block before the substantive text of the email: classified by director, with the other declassification detail. In the email's introductory note, Comey also wrote, "I am not sure of the proper classification, so I've chosen secret. Please let me know if it should be higher or lower than that." So he's going to share this with others, obviously. Comey told the IG that he classified Memo 1 in this way because this shows you he was spying. This is the key, folks. Pay attention. He classified Memo 1 in this way because his judgment was that the information ought to be treated like, quote, FISA-derived information or information in a counterintelligence investigation. This is a product of a spy operation. That was the basis for his classifying it. Who was the spy operation targeting? President-elect Trump. Comey was spying on Trump. There you have it. And as Byron York has pointed out, he didn't write a memo in his next communication with Trump because despite this classified briefing outrageously being used to try to destroy Trump, well, actually, the briefing itself was being used to destroy Trump, then it was leaked that he was briefed. Byron York writes for the Washington Examiner, and he's reminded us that, remember, the dossier already had been out there because the Clinton camp wanted to get it into the media to destroy Trump. It's political garbage opposition research. They don't care if it's true or not. They're just trying to win. And once President Trump won, they were still trying to use it to destroy Trump, to overturn the results of the election, driving a stake through the heart of our constitutional republic. They didn't care. So it gets leaked, and President-elect Trump calls Comey and complains about it. And Comey lies to him. Well, you really can't call it a leak because it was already out there. Well, that wasn't the point. What wasn't out there and what had been leaked was the fact that it was given to President Trump. That was the hook, as Byron York puts out, that gave the media excuse to begin reporting on the dossier, and it led to its full publication by BuzzFeed News. Comey didn't write a memo about his dishonest conversation with President Trump about his misleading him on the leak. So why did I get into that with you? Because everyone says we got to wait for the IG report on FISA to come out to see what Comey does, to see what the Justice Department does, whether there's going to be any prosecutions. We got to wait for Durham to do whatever he's going to do. Look, the detail here is enlightening, but the basic elements of Comey's criminality and the ambush interview of President Trump has been widely known. The details are just devastating, but it's Much of this has been in the public record, thanks in part to Judicial Watch. You didn't need an IG report to prosecute Comey. They refused to prosecute him. Are we going to have the same with the FISA-gate? Much of the FISA-gate fraudulent activity, the spying on President Trump, FISA-gate's only about the Carter Page FISA warrant applications that were targeting Trump world. That's generally out there. We don't need an IG report for prosecutions to begin or a criminal investigation to begin. But even if we did, what makes you think, given the spy operation illicitly targeting President-elect Trump, that's been ignored by the Justice Department, they're going to change their minds and say, well, yeah, that lying about the FISA warrants was prosecutable. It'd be a miracle if that happened, I tell you. It'd be a miracle. And miracles do happen. President Trump fired James Comey. So, Judicial Watch is continuing to try to get the documents because I think it's important that we get this information out there, because nothing will be done if the public doesn't know about what needs to be done. If we don't know the details of the criminality, nothing will be done. That's why that's why the IG reports, despite being an expose and to cover up at the same time, the IG reports are, they're almost always cover-ups. They're exposés too, but there's always material they soft pedal or withhold material or characterize activity in a way that helps the agency they're supposed to be investigating, which they all work for. So, Barr's team dropped the ball on Spygate, folks. They've already done it. And I don't think it's going to change with any FISA report. I just don't see it happening. I don't see I don't even see strong evidence of a serious criminal investigation. The U.S. Attorney Durham, I guess he's questioning people, but I don't, is it a review? Is it an administrative review? Or is it a criminal investigation? If it's a criminal investigation, I think there'd be more indicia of that activity. You'd have grand juries in operation, and when you got a grand jury investigating such a sensitive matter as this, a lot of witnesses are going to be deposed and questioned, and they're going to talk. There's nothing prohibiting a witness from testifying and then talking about it, or complaining about having to testify, or having their lawyers talk about it. It would come out. I have no doubt there's a grand jury that's getting some information to, oftentimes in the case of the Clinton email investigation, they used the grand jury not because they were serious about criminal investigation, but because they needed it as a vehicle. They needed the subpoena power to get documents they otherwise would not be able to get. I think that's what's happening again. Now, how do we change the outcome so that justice is more fully served? By Judicial Watch, frankly, and President Trump following our lead in the sense of getting the documents out, going on a transparency tear. We're asking for the rest of the FISA materials. We're asking for the Page-Strzok email communications, all getting obstructed from, or getting obstructed from the FBI on this. The Bruce Orr materials we've got out showing that the FISA process was fraudulent and corrupted. Nellie Orr, Fusion GPS, having easy access to the Justice Department. You wouldn't believe what was going on. Well, you would believe it. But Judicial Watch has gotten the material out. So we already know there's enough evidence of criminal activity to warrant prosecutions. But it isn't happening yet. So I know it may be upsetting to you to hear that, but trust Judicial Watch to do what we are able to do, because no one else is doing anything about it. I'm not saying no one in the Justice Department is interested in trying to get justice, but as I was on Lou Dobbs this week. Lou Dobbs was in Washington, D.C., and he's normally in New York, so I never get to see him. So it was good to be with him in person in the studio. And I made the point that Attorney General Barr, I suspect, is a lot like President Trump. His instincts are right. He wants to do the right thing, but he's surrounded by 1,000 lawyers, all kind of like James Comey, who on the best of days are anti-conservative, on pretty much every other day, they're viciously anti-Trump. They're smart, but intellectually dishonest, coming up with 1,000 reasons not to do what needs to be done to drain the swamp and to hold accountable what needs to be hold accountable those who need to be held accountable here. Hillary Clinton's never been questioned on this issue. She hired Fusion GPS. Her lawyers were talking to the FBI about all of this. No one's asked her any questions about it. Barack Obama, I know that's a more sensitive topic because he is the President of the United States, or was the President of the United States. So the ability of the Justice Department to question him about his management of intelligence activities is a little more limited, but it's not prohibited from him having to answer questions or being asked questions and let him object based on privileges. That hasn't been done. And it's important that it be done because it's crucial that we don't allow these government deep staters. And it's not just Democrats. You had John McCain who was shopping around the dossier. We proved that. Who decide they know better than you who should be president. Like I said, they want to drive a stake through the heart of our constitutional republic. That if their president is elected they don't like, or there's a candidate that's running for president that they do like, they will put their thumb on the scale and upend your right to vote and the decisions of tens of millions of Americans as to who to put in office. And it's continuing. The Democrats are not backing off impeachment, which is the next phase of the coup. The report is that supposed, and this is to me pretext reporting, meaning that these are friendly reporters dutifully printing out what their Democratic colleagues are telling them to write, that they're getting a lot of pressure from folks at home during the 46-day recess they've been on. What'd you do the last 46 days? You've been on vacation for 46 days? Well, Congress has been. And they're going to come back saying that the people want impeachment and they're going to intensify the impeachment push, despite their party's involvement in the worst criminal conspiracy in American history here in Washington, D.C., in terms of politics. Unbelievable. And it's only Judicial Watch that's doing the basic oversight. The FBI 302s documenting Bruce Orr came out thanks to Judicial Watch. The FISA warrant applications, thanks to Judicial Watch. The documented relationship between the FBI and Christopher Steele, Hillary Clinton's spy, thanks to Judicial Watch. State Department documents showing that they were involved in pushing the Russiagate smear targeting President Trump in an effort to destroy him, thanks to Judicial Watch. All of this thanks to Judicial Watch. So don't despair. Judicial Watch is here, and we'll keep on working to uphold the rule of law. And if the agencies don't want to do it, it's unfortunately not much of a surprise, but at least there's a way of getting some accountability by getting the truth out about what happened. And without that basic foundation out there, nothing will ever be done. So if you want prosecutions, you're going to want Judicial Watch to succeed, because if left to their own devices, you'll never know anything, and they'll never tell you what they're not prosecuting. But thanks to Judicial Watch's work, you'll know what they're not prosecuting, and perhaps the pressure from that outrage will spur appropriate prosecutions under the law.